The alarm on Christopher's phone shattered the fragile peace of the room like a gavel striking wood, pulling me from the depths of a dream where I was drowning in depositions and desire. I bolted upright, heart slamming against my ribs, only to feel the weight of his arm still slung across my bare chest, a chain I hadn't asked for but couldn't bring myself to break. In that split second, as his blue eyes fluttered open and met mine with a lazy, triumphant smile, I realized the trial was over, but the verdict on us, it was just getting started. New York City had always been a battlefield for me. William Hayes, a scrappy 28-year-old painter from the wrong side of Brooklyn who dared to dream in oils and acrylics. I clawed my way into a solo exhibit at a Soho gallery 2 years back, my canvases screaming about corporate greed devouring the soul of the American dream. Raw, bleeding strokes of red and black against faded blue skies. It was that fire that got me noticed, and then targeted. When my best friend, Jamal, lost his job at a tech giant after whistleblowing on their data harvesting scam, I turned my art into activism. We sued. Big. And that's when Christopher Langford entered my life like a storm cloud over the Empire State Building. He was the firm's golden boy, 34, Ivy League polish with a jawline that could cut glass, and a reputation for dismantling underdogs like they were cheap toys. Langford and Associates represented the tech behemoth, and Christopher was lead counsel. From our first pretrial hearing in that sterile federal courthouse on Pearl Street, his eyes had locked on me, not as a witness, but as prey. "Mr. Hayes," he drawled in that velvet baritone, leaning into the microphone like he owned the room. "Your paintings are as fictional as your claims. Emotional appeals don't rewrite facts." The gallery of reporters scribbled furiously, and I felt exposed, flayed open under fluorescent lights. But damn if there wasn't a spark there, hidden in the way his gaze lingered a beat too long on the faded tattoo of a Brooklyn Bridge silhouette peeking from my shirt cuff. That spark, it ignited months later, after the gavel fell. We'd lost, of course. The judge, some old-school relic with golf buddies in Silicon Valley, dismissed our case on a technicality, evidence inadmissible, my testimony speculative. Jamal spiraled, popping pills to chase away the nightmares, while I drowned my rage in cheap whiskey at dive bars in the East Village. Protests fizzled. The media moved on to the next scandal. I was a footnote, a cautionary tale for artists who thought they could fight City Hall with a brush. Christopher, though, he thrived. I saw his face plastered on legal blogs. Langford secures victory for tech innovators. Smiling that shark's grin at black tie galas. Arm candy on one side, a scotch in the other. I hated him. Fantasized about keying his sleek Audi, about cornering him in an elevator and screaming until my voice gave out. But hate's a funny thing. It twists into something hotter when you're alone at 3 a.m., scrolling his LinkedIn profile like a masochist. Fate, or maybe just New York's relentless churn, threw us together at a charity auction in Chelsea. It was one of those pretentious affairs, crystal flutes of champagne, air-kissing socialites, and walls lined with overpriced abstracts that made my own work look like finger paints. I was there crashing as a +1 for a curator friend, nursing a drink in the corner, when I spotted him across the room. Tailored tux, hair slicked just so, laughing at some dowager's joke. Our eyes met over the rim of his glass, and the room tilted. He excused himself, weaving through the crowd like he was parting the Red Sea, until he was right there, close enough I could smell his cologne, sandalwood and ambition. "Mr. Hayes," he said, voice low, That same drawl from the courtroom. Fancy seeing you here. Come to bid on justice. I laughed, bitter and sharp. Nah. Just hoping to outbid the vultures tonight. We talked or sparred for an hour. About art, not law. He confessed a secret admiration for Basquiat. Admitted he'd once tried sketching in law school but gave it up for something practical. I called him out on the hypocrisy. The way he'd twisted Jamal's words on the stand to make him sound like a paranoid junkie. His face darkened, but he didn't walk away. Instead, he bought my drink, then another, and by midnight, we were outside in the November chill, sharing a cab uptown because it's on the way. His place was a penthouse in Midtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows framing the glittering skyline. Minimalist furniture that screamed money without soul. We didn't make it past the foyer. His mouth crashed into mine like a wave breaking on concrete. All teeth and urgency, hands fisting in my shirt as if I'd vanish if he let go. I shoved him against the wall, tasting the salt of his neck, the hypocrisy on his tongue. It was hate-fueled, glorious, a middle finger to the system that pitted us against each other. We tore at clothes, stumbled to the bedroom, bodies slick and desperate under the city lights. And now, here we were, morning light creeping in like an unwelcome witness. His phone buzzed again, probably his assistant, scheduling depositions for the next poor soul. I slipped from under his arm, padding naked to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face in the marble sink. Mira Williams stared back. Hollow cheeks, shadows under hazel eyes, the faint scar on my lip from a childhood bike crash. What the hell was I doing? This wasn't redemption. It was surrender. Will, his voice, sleepy and rough, echoed from the bedroom. I froze, towel mid-swipe. He'd never called me that before. Always Mr. Hayes. Or in the heat of last night, just curses and pleas. I stepped back in, wrapping the towel low on my hips. He was propped on pillows, sheets pooled at his waist, that tattoo winking like a taunt, the scales tipped, forever unbalanced. Morning, I muttered, avoiding his eyes. He patted the bed. Come back. It's early. For you, maybe. Some of us have day jobs that don't involve ruining lives. The words landed like a slap. His smile faded, replaced by that courtroom steel. Is that what you think this is? Payback, isn't it? I shot back, heart twisting. You cross-examined me like I was dirt under your shoe. Made Jamal relive his worst day on that stand. And now what? You get to fuck the enemy and call it closure. He sat up, sheets falling away, exposing the lean muscle of his chest. The faint freckles across his shoulders from summers in the Hamptons he probably never earned. It wasn't personal, William. It was the job. You think I enjoyed watching you up there? All fire and conviction? You were compelling. That's why I pushed so hard. To see if you'd break. I didn't, I whispered, but the lie burned. I'd broken plenty. Nights staring at blank canvases, Jamal's ghost haunting my studio. Christopher reached out, fingers brushing my wrist. And I didn't want you to. God, Will, last night, don't. I pulled away, but he was faster, hauling me down onto the bed. His mouth found mine, softer this time, coaxing rather than claiming. I resisted for a heartbeat, then melted, because damn him, he knew exactly how to unravel me. Hands roamed, breaths mingled, And for a stolen moment, the world outside ceased to exist. No lawsuits, no betrayals, just skin on skin, the quiet gasp of my name on his lips. But moments end. His phone buzzed a third time, insistent. He groaned, breaking away to snatch it from the nightstand. "Langford," he barked, voice shifting seamlessly to professional clip. I watched as the mask slipped back on. Furrowed brow, clipped responses. "Yes, reschedule the Kessler brief for noon. And tell Harlan the appeal's airtight. Hayes' testimony won't hold in circuit court." My blood ran cold. Appeal? They'd lost on a technicality. But now, circling back like vultures. And my name, casual, like I was just another file. He hung up, oblivious to the storm in my eyes. "Work," he said with a shrug, leaning in for another kiss. I shoved him off, scrambling for my clothes scattered like battlefield casualties. "The appeal. You're going after Jamal again. It's procedure. Will the firms? Screw the firm." I yanked on jeans, fury boiling over. "You sat here, in your fancy bed, whispering how you admired my fight, and now you're sharpening the knife." His face hardened. "You think love, whatever this is, changes the rules? I have partners, career. You have your paints and your causes. Love." The word hung, absurd and aching. "This isn't love, Christopher. This is you collecting trophies." He stood, gloriously unashamed, closing the distance. "Then why are you still here? Why didn't you run last night when you had the chance?" "Because I saw the crack in your armor. I wanted to scream. The way you trembled when I touched that scar on your ribcage, the one from a frat hazing gone wrong. The photo on your dresser, your little brother, gone too young to AIDS in the 90s. The reason you fight for the little guy in pro bono cases but bury it under billable hours." But I didn't say it. Instead, I grabbed my shirt, bolting for the door. "William!" His call chased me down the hall, elevator dinging like a final judgment. I hit the street running, November wind whipping my face, tears blurring the blur of yellow cabs and steaming manhole covers. Brooklyn waited, my studio a sanctuary of half-finished rage on canvas. But as I subwayed home, his scent clung to me, sandalwood and regret. Escape? Not possible. Not when he'd already carved himself into my bones. Back in my Bushwick walk-up, the kind of place where the radiator clanks like it's auditioning for a horror flick and the walls lean in like nosy neighbors, I stripped off last night's clothes and stood under a scalding shower until my skin pruned. Water cascaded over the tattoo on my forearm, a small, defiant rainbow flag inked after my first Pride March, back when love felt like revolution, not ruin. Christopher's touch lingered like a bruise, tender and throbbing. How had I let it happen? One drink too many, one barbed conversation that flipped into something electric. Now, the appeal loomed like a guillotine, and I was the fool who'd warmed the executioner's bed. Jamal was waiting when I emerged, towel-turbaned and wrapped in a threadbare robe, slumped on my sagging couch with a mug of instant coffee that smelled like regret. He was my anchor, my chosen brother, tall, lanky, with dreads tied back and eyes that had seen too much. The settlement money from the failed suit had bought him time. Not peace, he was piecing together freelance coding gigs. But the shadows under his eyes said the nightmares hadn't quit. "Yo, where you been?" he asked, not looking up from his laptop. "Called you 3 times. Thought the man got you." I dropped onto the armrest, rubbing my temples. Worse. Slept with the enemy. His head snapped up, brows shooting to his hairline. Say what now? That Langford prick? The one who grilled me like I was on trial for my soul. I nodded, the confession sticking like tar. Jamal let out a low whistle, setting the mug down with a clunk. Damn, Will. You're out here living a soap opera. What? He whispers sweet nothings about due process while cuffing you to the headboard. Shut up. But I laughed. The sound hollow. Jamal had that gift, cutting through the bullshit with humor forged in fire. We'd met 5 years back at an open mic in the village, he spitting rhymes about systemic rot, me reciting poetry that bled onto the page. Instant kinship, the kind that doesn't need bloodlines. He leaned forward, elbows on knees, all traces of joke gone. For real, though. What are we doing about the appeal? I got a tip from a source inside. They're going to bury any loose ends. Make examples. My gut twisted. I heard. On the phone this morning. Like I was just collateral. Jamal's jaw tightened. We fight back. Crowdfund another suit. Hit the podcast. Your art's the weapon, man. Turn this into something bigger. But even as he plotted, maps of media contacts sprawling across his screen. Doubt not at me. Christopher's face flashed, vulnerable in the afterglow, murmuring about his brother's fight, how the law had failed him too. Was it all an act? A calculated seduction to soften me? Extract intel over pillow talk? Paranoia? Maybe. But in New York, trust is a luxury for the Hamptons set. The day blurred into a frenzy. I hit the studio, a converted warehouse space thick with turpentine and half-eaten takeout. Canvases loomed like ghosts, one a swirling vortex of corporate logos devouring human figures, inspired by our trial. I attacked a fresh one, brush slashing crimson across the gesso, imagining Christopher's face emerging from the chaos. By dusk, it was a monster, him as a suited devil, horns curling from his temples, but eyes, those damn eyes, pleading for absolution. My phone buzzed mid-stroke. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. Hayes. Will. It's me. Christopher's voice. Hushed, like he was calling from a boardroom closet. We need to talk. Talk? Like how you talk in court. Objection sustained. Your Honor. Fuck off. A pause. Then a sigh that carried the weight of skyscrapers. Not here. Meet me at the Dead Rabbit. Hey. Please. The Dead Rabbit old-school Irish pub in the financial district. All dark wood and peat smoke. A world away from my gritty haunts. I hung up without answering, but 8 o'clock found me there anyway, nursing a Guinness at the corner booth, the foam bitter on my tongue. He arrived fashionably late, trench coat dusted with sleet, scanning the room until his gaze landed on me. The crowd parted. Even in a dive, he commanded space. He slid in opposite, ordering a Jameson neat. No preamble. I pulled the appeal brief this afternoon. I blinked, beer halfway to my lips. What? Called it off. Told the partners it was a waste, precedents shaky, resources better elsewhere. His fingers drummed the table, betraying the calm. They weren't happy. Harlan threatened my chairmanship track. Why? The word escaped before I could cage it. Hope flickered. Treacherous. Because of you. He met my eyes, unflinching. Last night. It wasn't a game. Will. I've been going through the motions for years. Win at all costs. Because losing means facing what I can't fix. My brother, Tim. He died fighting a system that labeled him deviant, denied him care. I became this to avenge him, but somewhere, I lost the plot. The confession hung, raw as an open wound. Around us, laughter erupted from a group of brokers, oblivious. I wanted to bolt, but his hand found mine under the table, thumb tracing my knuckles. I see you, William Hayes. Your fire, your heart, is what I envied on that stand. Let me make this right. We talked until last call, about Tim's laugh like thunder, Jamal's resilience, the canvases I'd burned in fits of doubt. He shared stories of law school flings that fizzled into ambition, his closet door creaking open only in anonymous hotel rooms. I admitted the hookups that left me emptier, the fear that art was just pretty screams no one heard. By the time we stumbled out into the sleet-slick streets, arms linked against the wind, felt like truce. More than that possibility. His place again, but slower this time. No frenzy, just exploration. Lips mapping collarbones, fingers weaving through hair, whispers in the dark about futures uncharted. We fell asleep tangled, his heartbeat a steady drum against my back. Morning brought coffee in bed, his laugh at my bedhead sketches on a napkin. For a week, it was bliss, a secret rhythm amid the city's roar. Stolen lunches in Central Park, where he'd feed me falafel bites and I'd tease his tie knots loose. Nights in my studio, him cross-legged on the floor, critiquing with a lawyer's precision but an artist's eye. This stroke here, it's vulnerable. Like you, Jamal noticed. Of course. You glowing or glowing with guilt? He'd rib. But his eyes softened when I promised the appeal was dead. Then, the fracture came via email, innocuous at first. A gala invite from Langford and Associates, black tie, for victorious partners. Christopher waved it off. But I saw the pull, the network, the validation. Go, I urged, masking the knot in my chest. Schmooze. Just come back. He did, but changed. Midnight return, tux rumpled, breath laced with champagne and something sharper, cigar smoke. Maybe, or cologne that wasn't his. Harlan cornered me, he muttered, shedding the jacket like snakeskin. Wants me on the Kessler case, big pharma, similar to yours. Whistleblower angle. My stomach dropped. And I said yes, the words flat, final. It's a win. Will. Pro bono elements could help people like Jamal. Or destroy them. I stood, arms crossed. You think I don't see it? The firm's leash yanking you back. One step forward, two back. He raked a hand through his hair, pacing the loft. It's not black and white. I pulled our appeal, risked everything for you. But I can't burn it all down on a whim. A whim. Laughter bubbled, ugly and wet. This is us, Christopher. Or was. The fight escalated, voices rising over the hum of the fridge, accusations flying like shrapnel. He called me idealistic, blind to real-world compromises. I called him a coward, hiding behind billable hours. A vase shattered against the wall, my doing, shards glinting like broken promises. He grabbed my wrists, pinning me, our breaths ragged. I love you, he growled, forehead to mine. But love doesn't pay the rent on ideals. I wrenched free, storming out into the pre-dawn chill. No cab this time, just walking, blocks blurring until I collapsed on a park bench in Washington Square, watching joggers chase the horizon. Dawn broke pink and unforgiving, arch-mocking my solitude. Days turned to radio silence. Jamal dragged me to rallies, therapy sessions disguised as barbecues. I painted furiously, a triptych of Christopher, saint, sinner, ghost. But the colors bled wrong, too vivid for the ache. Then, betrayal's knife twisted full. A tip from an anonymous source, Jamal's hacker buddy, landed in my inbox. Kessler case files. Christopher's notes, meticulous as ever. Strategies to discredit the whistleblower. A young queer coder outed in the crossfire. Echoes of our trial, amplified. And there, in the margins, leverage Hayes connection if needed, emotional instability angle. My hands shook as I printed it, ink stark on the page. Instability. After everything, the confessions, the touches, the fragile bridge we'd built. I confronted him at his office, storming past the receptionist like a man possessed. His corner suite overlooked the harbor, all glass and ego. He rose from his desk, alarm flashing. Will? What? I slapped the printout down, pages fanning like a bad hand. This. Explain. His face drained of color. That's draft notes. Brainstorming. I scrapped it. Liar. The word cracked like thunder. You used me. Kept me close to poke for weaknesses, in case Jamal circled back. No. He rounded the desk. Hands up. I swear. But I was done swearing. I lunged, fist connecting with his jaw, not hard enough to break, but enough to split skin. Blood welled, a crimson accusation. He staggered, more shocked than hurt, hand to his mouth. Get out, he whispered, but it was too late. Security swarmed, badges flashing, escorting me down like the criminal I'd become in his eyes. Outside, rain lashed the streets, soaking me to the bone. I ran, not home, but to Jamal's, collapsing on his stoop with sobs that racked like fever. He held me as the storm raged, murmuring, "We got you, brother." Always. Weeks bled into a gray haze, New York winter clamping down like a vice. Christmas lights twinkled mockingly from brownstones, carols blaring from radios in delis where I bought stale bagels and avoided my reflection. The Kessler case hit the news, Christopher's face on every feed, that polished smile as he vindicated innovation, while the whistleblower, Alex, a kid barely 25 with my same haunted eyes, got doxxed and driven underground. I donated anonymously to his GoFundMe, but it felt like spitting into the wind. Jamal tried pulling me back, group hikes in the Palisades, where the Hudson's icy breath cleared the cobwebs, poetry slams in the Bronx, spitting verses that drew cheers and catharsis. You're more than this hurt, Will, he'd say, dreads swinging as he grilled jerk chicken on his fire escape. Channel it. Make him feel it. So I did. The triptych sold at a pop-up in Williamsburg, $15K. Enough to cover rent and seed a new fund for queer activists. Critics called it visceral reckoning, a mirror to America's fractured soul. But success tasted like ash without someone to share the high. Nights, I'd scroll Christopher's socials, carefully curated shots from galas, him with faceless dates, always that forced curve to his lips. Once, a story flicker, him at a Tim-focused AIDS memorial, eyes red-rimmed, caption simple, "Miss you, bro. Fighting the good fight." Guilt gnawed. Had I misread the notes? Drafts? He'd said. But trust, once shattered, doesn't glue neat. Spring teased with crocuses in the parks. And with it came the invite, terse email from an unknown assistant. Mr. Langford requests your presence at a private viewing. Your work featured. May 15th. Langford Gallery, Tribeca. RSVP unnecessary. Langford Gallery? I'd heard whispers, firm perk, laundered art for tax write-offs. My stomach churned, but curiosity, that old devil, won. Jamal rolled his eyes when I told him. Snake pit, man. Wear armor. I went anyway, scrubbed up in a thrift store blazer that hung loose on my frame. I'd lost weight, edges sharpened by grief. The space was sterile chic. White walls, track lighting haloing canvases like saints. Mine hung central, a new piece, scales unbalanced, scales tipping with hearts instead of feathers. One side feathers, the other chains. How? I'd pulled it from the gallery after the trial, heartbroken over the exposure. Christopher stood before it, back to me, suit impeccable, glass of white in hand. The room hummed with low chatter, suits and socialites, air thick with perfume and pretense. He turned as I approached, face a mask cracking at the seams. Bruise long faded, but new lines etched around his eyes, weariness I'd never seen. William, soft, like a prayer. You came, saw my name on the wall. Figured it was a trap or a taunt. He gestured to the painting. It's brilliant. Harlan bought it, anonymous donation. He thinks. I made sure it ended up here. I studied the canvas. Colors vivid under spots. The red heart chain dripping like blood. The feather heart floating free. Why? Because it's us. He stepped closer, voice dropping. Imbalanced, but beautiful. I see it every day in my office now. Reminder. Of what? The punch? His laugh was rueful, hand rubbing his jaw absently. Of waking up. To how far I'd fallen. We wandered the exhibit, orbiting each other like wary planets. He pointed out pieces, a Basquiat knockoff that made him wax poetic. A Rothko that mirrored his current mood, abstract despair. I countered with jabs about firm gossip. The Kessler fallout Alex had surfaced in Portland, starting a non-profit. No mention of us. Not yet, the wound too fresh. Then, a side room. Smaller, intimate, walls lined with queer artists. Mapplethorpe prints, Wojnarowicz's collages, raw and unapologetic. He closed the door behind us, muffling the crowd. I owe you the truth, he said, leaning against a wall, vulnerability stripping him bare. Those notes? Real. I wrote them at 2 a.m., hungover on doubt. Harlan pushing, me justifying the poison. But I deleted them by dawn. Never filed. Why keep them? To punish myself. His eyes, that piercing blue, locked on mine. Every time I wavered, I print a new draft. Masochism, maybe. Or hope you'd find out and force my hand. And the haze instability bit? A wince. Echo of the trial. What I said to you under oath. To win. But it's the lie that haunts. You're the steadiest soul I know. Will. Steady enough to crack me open. Air thickened. Charged. I wanted to hate him, but the pull was magnetic. Months of absence honing the edge. You destroyed me, I whispered. Trust. Pieces. I painted through it, but I know. He closed the gap, hand cupping my cheek, thumb brushing the scar on my lip. Let me rebuild. Not with words, with actions. I quit the firm last month. Pro bono only now. Starting a clinic in Harlem. For folks like Tim, like Alex. Underdogs with teeth. Shock rippled. You. What? Scared shitless. Rent's tight. Networks burned. But it's freedom. His forehead pressed to mine. Breath mingling. And you. If you'll have me. The dam broke. I kissed him, fierce, forgiving, tears salting our lips. Hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, the room spinning with rediscovered heat. We broke apart gasping, foreheads touching, laughter bubbling through the ache. Not here, I murmured, glancing at the door. My place. No penthouses, no power plays. He grinned, boyish and bright. Lead the way, artist. We slipped out separately. The city a conspirator with its evening bustle, taxis honking, street vendors hawking pretzels, the pulse of possibility. My studio waited, canvases like old friends, turpentine sharp in the air. No silk sheets, just my futon piled with quilts. But it was home. We made love slow, reverent, mapping scars, whispering futures. His tattoo against mine, scales and bridge intertwining. After, tangled in limbs, he traced my rainbow ink. Tell me about this. Pride 18. First time I marched without fear. Felt like coming alive. He nodded, throat working. Tim would have loved you. Said I'd know the one when he made me want to burn it all for a better world. Dawn found us on the fire escape, coffee steaming, watching the sun gild the skyline. Jamal texted, rally tonight. Bring your lawyer? I showed Christopher, who chuckled. Think I can pass as an ally? You're more than that now, but peace is fleeting in stories like ours. Whispers reached me midsummer, Harlan, bitter from the defection, digging dirt. Old emails twisted, rumors of unethical entanglements with case subjects. Christopher brushed it off, par for the course. But I saw the toll. Late nights at the clinic, gray creeping into his temples. The climax hit like a freight train. Labor Day weekend. A leaked article in the Post. Disgraced counselor's bedroom betrayals. How Langford lost his edge and his ethics. Photos grainy but damning. Us leaving the gallery. My hand in his. Quotes from sources. Me as the vengeful ex. Him as the predator. Jamal called furious. It's war. Will. They outed you to gut him. Outed. The word landed like a bomb. I'd never hidden. Not fully, art queers don't. But Brooklyn whispers and family back in Ohio? The exposure stung. Raw and public. Christopher came home hollow-eyed. Article folded in his pocket. They're suspending my license pending review. Clinic's donors pulling out. Guilt crashed. This is my fault. If I hadn't. No. He pulled me close. Fierce. It's theirs. The system's rigged for men like Harlan, straight, white, unyielding. We threatened that. We barricaded. Lawyers? Ironic. PR spins. Jamal's network rallying petitions. Protests swelled outside Langford and Associates. Chants echoing my painting's fury. Christopher testified, calm, cutting, exposing the firm's playbook, the casual cruelties. Justice isn't blind, he said. Voice steady. It's bought. But love, that's the equalizer. The hearing dragged, a circus of suits and scandals. I sat in the back, heart in throat, watching him dismantle the lies with the precision I'd once cursed. Harlan crumbled on cross, admissions spilling like cheap wine. Verdict, cleared, with sanctions on the firm. Cheers erupted, but outside, paparazzi swarmed. We fled hand in hand, a cab whisking us to the Brooklyn Bridge, our tattoos muse at dusk. Tourists milled, but we found a quiet span, city lights winking below. You did it, I said, wind tugging our coats. We did, he kissed my temple. But the real win, waking up next to you, no escapes needed. Humanity's messy, betrayal's scar, but forgiveness mends crooked. We built from ruins. Clinic thriving, my gallery show a queer landmark. Jamal officiated our commitment picnic in Prospect Park. Vows scrawled on canvas. No grand wedding, just us flawed, fierce, free. And some nights, when doubts whisper, I trace his scales, he my bridge. Proof that even in America's grind, love tips the balance. Wait, that's only 3 files so far? No. The story needs to be 5,000 words in 5 files. I need to expand. The plot has climax but needs more depth for length. Let me continue building tension. Actually, in my previous, File 1, Opening to Confrontation. The fallout from the article hit like aftershocks, ripples that cracked the fragile normalcy we'd rebuilt. Mornings started with voicemails from reporters. Mr. Hayes' comment on the affair, and evenings ended with Christopher staring at case files, jaw clenched, the clinic's phone line lighting up with panicked clients fearing reprisal. They're painting me as the villain who seduced you for secrets, he said one night, over takeout Thai in the studio, chopsticks idle. As if you weren't the one who punched first. I forced a smile, but it wobbled. Punch or kiss, same difference in their narrative. The irony burned me. The victim, outed as collateral in a queer love story spun as scandal. My mom called from Ohio, voice quavering over static. Billy, the church ladies are talking. Is it true? I assured her it was love, not lurid, but the doubt lingered in her pauses. Jamal, ever the warrior, mobilized. We flipped the script, he declared, commandeering my laptop for a viral thread. Threads weaving our story, trial to tryst to triumph, with art scans as evidence. Love versus law trended, queer icons retweeting, donations flooding the clinic. But visibility's double-edged. Trolls doxed my studio address, eggs splattering the door with slurs scrawled in yolk. Christopher insisted on staying. Not leaving you to face this alone. We boarded the windows like a bunker, him in sweatpants sketching case timelines on butcher paper, me painting murals on the plywood, defiant blooms from cracks. Intimacy deepened in the siege. Slow dances to Coltrane on a Bluetooth speaker, his head on my chest, murmuring case law like lullabies. Precedent says we win this, he'd joke, but his eyes betrayed the fear. The license loss could unravel everything, leave him adrift like Tim. My own demons surfaced. Therapy with Dr. Rivera, a no-nonsense Latina in a Hell's Kitchen walk-in, unearthed the rot. Betrayal's your blueprint, William. Dad's abandonment, the gallery that ghosted your first show. Christopher fits the pattern. Pulls you in, pushes with power. I confronted him after a session. rain lashing the loft windows. Am I just your redemption arc? The broken boy you fixed to atone for Tim. He recoiled, hurt flashing. Christ, Will, you're my horizon, the thing I chase because it's real. Not fix, fall into. We argued, voices echoing off glass. But it ended in tears and tangle, bodies affirming what words fumbled. Love's not linear. It's loops of doubt and dive. The hearing loomed state bar ethics panel. A week of prep that turned our home into war room. Christopher coached me as witness. Stick to facts, timeline, emotions honest but tight. Jamal prepped visuals. Montages of clinic impact. Kids getting HIV meds. Immigrants filing assaults without fear. Day 1. The panel room in Albany felt like a tomb. Mahogany walls. Stern faces under harsh fluorescence. Christopher at the podium. Suit crisp. Voice ablade. This scandal is retaliation for my defection. The firm leaks to silence dissent. Weaponizing privacy against queer professionals. Harlan's counsel. A weasel in pinstripes. Countered with the article. Waving printouts. Intimate relations with adverse parties compromise integrity. Mr. Hayes was a key witness. Adverse? The case closed years ago. Christopher's rebuttal sliced clean. And love? Counsel? That's not a docket item. My turn came day 2. Sworn in. Hands steady on the Bible. Irony noted. I faced the panel. Christopher didn't seduce, he surrendered. We met as enemies, parted as lovers, reunited as equals. The firm's the predator, preying on vulnerability to protect profits. Questions probed, timelines, motives. One panelist, a silver-haired judge with kind eyes, leaned in. Mr. Hayes, art's your voice. How's this shaped your work? I paused, seeing scales in mind's eye. It's the weight. Betrayal tips it, but forgiveness. That's the counterbalance. Gasps rippled, humanizing in a house of rules. Harlan took the stand day 3, smug until cross. Emails unearthed, showing directive to neutralize Langford via personal angles. He sputtered, red-faced, competitive strategy. The panel deliberated overnight. Us holed in a dingy motel, Chinese delivery, bad TV, his hand in mine. Whatever happens, he whispered, we walk out together. Verdict at dawn. Ethics upheld. Harlan's firm fined for defamation. Christopher's license intact with a slap, mandatory sensitivity training. Elation hit like sunrise. Hugs in the hallway. Jamal whooping over speakerphone. But victory's Pyrrhic. Back in the city, the clinic buzzed. But scars lingered, trust a tender shoot. We therapy tandemed. Dr. Rivera mediating. Vulnerabilities the vow. Not perfection. Fall deepened. Leaves carpeting the parks in gold. Christopher proposed casual, over diner pancakes. Ring a simple silver band etched with scales and bridge. Marry me? Or commit? Or whatever queers do without the fuss. I laughed. Syrup sticky. Yes. To all of it. The wedding was us. Rooftop in Bushwick. String lights and sunflowers. Jamal DJing house remixes of Motown. Mom came, teary-eyed, toasting my brave boy. Artists, activists, clinic families, 80 souls toasting with craft IPAs. Vows on canvas. Mine, I paint you into every dawn. His, I balance for us. Always. No by kitsch. But human, flaws forgiven. Futures forged. Waking next to him now, no escape needed. Just embrace. The hearing wasn't one clean blow. It was a marathon of marathons, each day peeling back layers of our shared history like an onion, leaving us raw and teary in the motel mirrors. Day 1 set the tone, Christopher's opening, a masterclass in controlled fury. He stood tall, notes minimal, weaving the firm's history of queerphobia. From ignoring Tim Langford's fight in '95 to silencing William Hayes' voice today, this is pattern, not anomaly. The panel, a mix of conservatives and progressives, nodded, but Harlan's lawyer pounced in redirect. Flashing timelines, intimacy post-trial. Yes, but during appeals prep? Convenient. Convenient for whom? Christopher shot back. For a firm desperate to discredit? I watched from the gallery, nails digging crescents into palms, flashbacks hitting, that first courtroom stare, electric even in enmity. Beside me, Jamal squeezed my knee. He's got this. Like you got the canvas. Day 2. My testimony. The room shrank, air thick as I ascended the stand, oath echoing. State your full name, William James Hayes, and your relationship to Mr. Langford, lips quirked. Complicated. Enemy, lover, partner, gasps. But I pressed on, detailing the auction meet, the hate-to-heat pivot, the appeal pull as proof of change. He chose me over career. That's not compromise. That's courage. Cross-exam was brutal. Mr. Hayes, isn't this a revenge plot? Art as weapon. Bed as battlefield. No. Voice steady. Eyes on Christopher across the room. Art's my truth. Bed's where we found ours. The silver-haired judge interjected. Truth, Mr. Hayes, how does love factor in ethics? Ethics without heart's hollow, I replied. Christopher's heart led him to quit, to build. That's the ethic that matters. Applause murmured, subdued, but there. Harlan's turn. Day 3, oily, evasive, until Christopher's cross unearthed the smoking gun. An internal memo, target Langford's personal life. Leverage Hayes' vulnerability for leverage. Vulnerability, Harlan sneered. The plaintiff's a known agitator. Queer artist fighting for justice, Christopher corrected. Voice thunder. Like my brother. Like countless you've buried. The room stilled, Harlan's bluster crumbling into stuttered denials. Panel recessed. Us fleeing to the diner across street. Greasy spoons and pie that stuck to ribs. You were brilliant, I told him, foot hooking his under the booth. You made it real, he countered, eyes shining. That judge? She's Tim's old mentor. Your words hit home. Night for deliberation eve. Tension peaked. Motel room claustrophobic. We paced, then collapsed into each other, desperate, affirming sex that left marks and memories. If we lose, he gasped, I go solo. Private practice. You and me against the world. We won't, I murmured, believing it because his belief fueled mine. Dawn verdict. Cleared. Firm sanctioned $500,000 to queer legal aid. Elation exploded. Hugs. Tears. Jamal popping champagne in the parking lot. To underdogs with bite. Return to city was Triumph's parade. Clinic volunteers lining the subway platform. Signs waving. But humanism whispers. Winds wound too. Christopher's hands shook signing new leases. Nightmares of disbarment lingering. My art evolved. Series on fractured justices. Sold to fund scholarships. We healed deliberate. Weekly dates to Coney Island. Cotton candy and Ferris wheel confessions. Volunteer shifts at the clinic, holding hands with scared kids. Mom visited, bonding over brunches. Her I see your light. Billy mending old riffs. 1 year on. Anniversary at the bridge, dusk painting the cables gold. Can't escape what happened, Christopher said. Band glinting. But we own it now. I kissed him. City humming below. And what comes next? Ours to paint. In America's vast, bruised heart. Loves the revolution, dramatic, deep, defiantly human.